I've taught middle school, high school, adults. My favorite, my sweet spot, I'll confess, is 6th grade. I love that. But I love all ages. I like writing, I like teaching, I love kids, and I love families. I am part of a group here that has a booth called Family, I remember the name. Help me out, Mark. What is her name?
Family Friendly Books.
There, Family Friendly Books. We've changed it because we were just fiction and now we do nonfiction as well. So we don't publish, we're just a group of friends that are authors, and we write from a faith-based point of view. So if that's your worldview, then you know that the books that our authors write will come from that. But we have fantasy author here today. There's 11 of us in our group now. We have 4 here today, a fantasy for YA, a middle grade about a normal kid who has a superpower to defy gravity and finds out that all your problems are not solved just because you have a superhero ability. So that's a 2-book series, and then we have one Valerie writes for littles. So she has a pop-up book and an amazing book, Bible story book that brings trucks and bulldozers and things little ones like, especially boys, into the story in a very unique but cool way. And then, me, I write historical fiction. So I'll bring some examples in, but I'm going to share with you a very basic kids book. How many are interested in writing for little ones? Could you raise your hands? Okay. And then how about for what we call middle grade, which is like age 9 to say 12? Do we have that group? 1, maybe 2, okay, 3, 4, yes. And then how many are interested for older groups like 13 and above? More for that group, awesome, which includes, of course, adults. So that would be young adult all the way to my age, which is old, but not in spirit, young in heart. So you hopefully all have a handout. Once more, the handouts are at the door if you didn't get one when you came in. Even though I'm going to use a picture book for my examples, the examples apply to any age you or somebody you know might be interested in writing. And so I'm giving you basics, but these basics, if you don't have them down, I pretty much can guarantee you won't get something published. So we need to review the basics before you can really move on and launch. The back side, I've listed links to sites that publish books written by kids, and some of them even pay. So that's kind of fun. I wish I had this when I was younger, because I liked writing, but if you don't have an audience, I don't know, there's just something about other people seeing the value of what you write. So if you have kids, those of you who are parents and have kids interested in writing, I would encourage them to submit, especially submit to contests, because you might not get feedback, you might get feedback, but at least you're publishing for a purpose. And unless you have a deadline, like taxes, if you don't have April 15th, you don't get your taxes done. So contests give you a deadline. All right, let's get started. And like I said, you can raise your hand if you have a question, or we'll save time at the end. So number 1 is write what you know. You want to write for the proper age group. That's why I asked what you're interested in. If you're 9 to 10 and you want to write a picture book, that's great because you've been a kid. And maybe you have siblings or people you might even babysit for later. Children's books are for ages 3 to 8. They're about 500 words, 32 pages, and they use illustrations to help tell the story. Today, publishers usually don't accept illustrations from the author. They usually employ their own illustrators, although they make exceptions. The main character in a children's book is preschool or kindergarten. There's also the board books, which are obviously for younger than 3, where you're just reading the story and they're following along. So here's an example. It's called Just a Duck. I'm not doing the whole story, but I'm giving you examples of what applies to what we're talking about. So here, the first question I have, you say, write what you know, write for the proper age group. Number 2, show that you know story. You want to guess? Subject, good. Setting is another good story word.
Structure.
Yes, is the one I'm looking for. Structure. And we're going to talk about, all those are good settings, but story structure, show that you know story structure as you write it or as you write a query letter. So here we're starting out, there's a cat and there's a duck. My good friend duck, why sleep like that? Well, can't you see I'm a cat? And then the next one, there we are. So letter A, show the main character right away. In maybe even the first paragraph, or at least the first page, you should have the main character. So right away we have the main character, which is, you can guess, the duck, because it's called, I forgot the name of the story already, but its name Duck is in the title. So show the main character, but do it in third person. You normally, unless it's YA, normally you don't say, I did this or that. Usually it's he, she, although there are exceptions for middle grade, it's just a psychological thing. Some middle grade could be first person, but at least for littles, you do it usually third person. Quickly show what the character thinks he or she wants, which would be what's a G word? Goal, yes. Show the goal. This is where most beginning writers fail. They don't even know what the character wants. They just have this great story idea about, I was talking to a girl yesterday, she's 8, and she has like 3 different stories started. And she can't slow down long enough to finish anything. But she hasn't thought about what's the main character's goal. And you need that. Oh, that's the cat. Actually, it's the duck trying to be a cat. And then see what they want. This is a really big point, so make sure you nail this one down. What they want is usually not really what they need. The next story you read, the next movie you see, watch for this. It's a good teaching lesson, self-taught thing. Look at what their goal is and then see, is that really what that character needs? They think it is, and you want the character to look like this is what they need, but it's really not, it's just what they want. I'll go on. I have a question on the next one, I think. So what do you think is Duck's goal? What does Duck want? Anybody just shout out? He wants to be a cat. Yes, that's what he wants. It's very simple in this picture book. Look forward to next time you're reading a picture book to someone young, or any book. What do they want? He wants to be a cat. Also, did you pick up the reason why he wants to be a cat? It's so he can play with the cat. So sometimes the main need also has multiple needs. The real reason is he wants the cat to be a friend. And he's a friend if he plays with him. But that's your basic need. He wants to be able to be a cat, so he can do that. Well, I just gave you the answer. I was supposed to wait until this slide. He wants to be a cat. He wants to play with a cat. It's both 1 and 2, yes. And mostly, though, it's number 2. He wants to be a cat because he wants to play. So you see how that worked together? His real goal is to play with a cat. All right, so write what you know, correct age group, show you know story structure, and then show letter D, A, P. What do you think that could be? Something the main character will have in reaching his goal.
Problem.
What's that?
Problem.
Problem. Yes, very good. Show that he has a problem. So show these other things first, but by the time you've shown that, then right away show the problem he's going to have in reaching his goal. Can you think of another word, a writing word that's used for that? That starts with a C?
Crisis.
Crisis. Good. Another one?
Conflict.
Conflict. So at this point, we're just going to call it conflict because later when we get into the diagram, we'll have another conflict. But that's good. You do have to have conflict. So conflict or crisis. What problem or conflict will Duck have? Oh, that's a pretty tree. Cat's climbing a tree. For sure. So pretty, I could almost purr. Cat. Well, yes, it's best for climbing, though. I'll race you to the top. Let's go. So can you guess what the Duck's problem's going to be climbing. He's not really a duck. So that's a problem. He's not really, I said that wrong, sorry. He's not, and nobody corrected me. Man, you're a nice crowd. Okay, she said cat, but yeah, he's not really, I said duck. He's not really a cat, so he can't climb the tree. So you've shown a problem. Can you we'll press pause for a second. Think of a movie you saw, or a book you're reading, or just read. Can you pinpoint who the main character was, what was their goal, and what was their problem? Anybody got something we might know? Give me a second to think about it. What was his goal, or her? What problem did they? Well, you can give me those two things. Main character, their goal, and then what was their problem in reaching that goal? Anybody? Making you work. This is a workshop. You have to work. No? Okay. I'll let you think just a little bit more. Think about it. Because when you personalize it, you learn it better than just like, okay, and then writing something down. If you can put it into your own brain, that helps a lot. Okay, next one. So show now more problems. So you've shown one problem, now show more problems. He can't climb the tree, but what else is he going to have a problem with to reach his goal? What problem or conflict will Duck have? What do you think?
Cat can't swim.
The cat what?
Cat can't swim.
The cat can't swim. Now his friend, the animal he wants to be his friend, now he has a problem. Okay, so we've entered another problem, but it's a different character. Make each problem something than the one before.
Worse.
Yes. This is dynamite. I'm giving you gold here. Make each problem worse than the one before. Don't make it just another problem. Make it even, build on it. Because that keeps up the conflict, it keeps up the tension. We read and we watch movies because there's going to be tension. We want emotion, even in a little picture book. So make each problem worse. Can he save his friend the cat? That's the duck's problem here. The cat fell in the water when he was climbing the tree. So the cat's problem is he's in the water and he can't swim. The duck's problem is how's he going to save him? What should he do? Will the cat drown? So letter G, the main character, and this is another gold one, the main character needs to ask the problems himself or herself. Solve. So many kids' books, you have the parents coming in or a third party, and they're actually helping to solve the problem, but the main character's not doing it. You want to put your reader inside. You want that main character, you want him or her to become that main character. And if somebody else is solving it, that breaks the bond between you, the writer, and the reader. That bond is that you're both inside the main character's head. So stay there, don't deviate. So he needs to solve the problems, him or himself. He can have help. He or she can have friends. Parents can help, especially in little books, obviously. In solving the worst problem, the main character does something, or they grow. I thought I heard it, but change. Did somebody say, who said that? Who said that? Okay. They change. If they don't change, things have to be about change. Watch a movie that you don't like. Again, you say, that wasn't satisfying. If you say that, go back and see if the main character changed. And I bet you they didn't. We are not satisfied when a character doesn't change. We watch or read to learn about change because that's what life is about. It's all about change. We grow. I was not this age all the time. I was once a 9-year-old. But I changed, and you are changing. It's a fact of life. You can't stop it. And we like to read about it to see how other people handle it because we have to handle it. And you have to help your reader handle it. So make that like your thread that runs all the way through. In solving the worst problem, the main character needs to change. So here you see how he solved it. He realized he can swim, so he jumps in the water, he has the cat on the log, and he pushes the log to the shore. Simple picture book, but it has all these deep things that the reader would understand even at a little age. Letter I, in the end, the main character realizes something about himself or his situation. Let's read the story first as you think about the T word. So the cat says, no more than just a duck, you say? Why, you're the duck who saved my day. You're a real hero. Don't you see that you are just a duck for me? And the duck says, oh, cat, you're a real hero too. If only I could climb like you. So he's still, he's still thinking back to what he wants. Oh, if only I were a cat who could climb like you. But I know what we both can do. So he's figured something out. He's starting to change, going out of that box of, I have to change to be like you. How could you write a middle grade or even a YA story like that? I have to change so I can be like you. That's a problem I would say, puberty age. Oh, I need to be like my friends because then I'll be accepted. I will have friends. That's what this little simple story is about. So what do you think the T is? In the end, the main character realizes the T about himself or his situation. Truth. Yes. He cannot be a cat. That's the honest truth. Have your character face the truth about their goal, their want, and what their real need is. That's the truth that you want to have in whatever you're writing. If you do that, it's magic. Your editor will want to publish that. So letter J then. Letter J. In the resolution, give evidence. It's not enough that we know he wants to change. Give evidence that RC has happened. What's that? Real change. You have to provide evidence in the resolution. That's what a resolution is. You know the characters changed, but the resolution is show how they've changed. So the duck is saying, I know what we could do, because he now knows he's not a cat. He can't change. He says, we can do together the drip drive, shimmy shake for two. So they can both do that even though they have different bodies. It's something they can do as friends. So you see how all these principles are true for whatever age you're writing, whatever genre you're writing. And then you may be familiar with this basic structure. I used this for a long time. Now I use something else that I'll be writing about called the W plot. It's more complicated. So you can go to my webpage and I'll have something about that coming up. And this is a basic plot structure kids learn in school. How many of you have seen this diagram? Yeah, I see heads. Okay. Yeah, so you should know how to fill in your little chart there. The beginning is the exposition, the introduction, but I like to call it the normal world. We need to see a snapshot, a couple sentences, maybe only one. What is your character's normal world? That's the beginning. And once you give us that situation, give the setting in that flat part, introduce right away the characters, the who, describe the setting, the where, establish the problem, the what and why. Do that almost all in the exposition. So that's where the craft comes in. Don't be wordy. Just get it out there. Figure out how to do it. And most of the writers I know write a basic idea for this exposition. Once the story is over, they go back and they figure out how can I do this more economically, fewer words, more punch, and sometimes they do it because they move to a different part in the story and make that the exposition. So feel free to rearrange. I've done that almost every story. I write it, I go back, I see, oh, the story really starts here. I don't need all this other stuff. And then there is, to get them off the plane, the flat ground, you know what they need? A trigger. It's not on your page. I left that thing out so you can write it in the trigger event. Yes, there's a trigger event that makes your character say, I need to step out of my comfort zone. This is my normal world, but I want to do this. I have a new goal. I'm a duck. I have no friends. I'm going to play with this cat. So you need a trigger event. And all that, if you're writing like a 200-page book, needs to be like in the first 15 pages. You don't have much time to do that. Then you should know this. First, going up is called the rising action. That's where you have your problem and your conflict, and it gets more complicated. So he not only is not a duck and can't climb a tree, now the cat's in the water, he doesn't know what to do. So make it harder as they go up. Remember what I said? What did I say about as you're climbing up, you have a problem, and then what? It gets worse. Make sure each problem is getting worse until, let's see if that goes there. Somebody had said crisis. When you reach the peak, that's that main crisis, or what was the other C word you gave me? Somebody, crisis, or not conflict, but what did you say? Do you remember? Crisis or, anyway, I was waiting for this moment, and I was going to say, that's where it is, the worst thing of worst. A solution to a problem caused by okay, what else? Then you have falling action. And that's where you're winding things down, but maybe there's still more conflict. Have any of you heard of a story structure called Save the Cat? No. Oh, that's really good. It was written, you had? Okay. What did you like about it? You look like you liked it.
The structure was just so, like, it just really flowed so well, and I noticed that it fit into like every book that I've read, and it seems like the author almost did it subconsciously.
Exactly, yeah. Once I read that Save the Cat, I was with my daughter-in-law and son. We were watching one of the old Superman movies, and I'm like, oh, there's this, oh, there's that, there's the mirror moment, there's the blah, blah, blah. And they looked at me like, what are you talking about? And I said, that's where this action is changing to the third, now we're in the second act, now we're in the third act, there's a callback. He has all these words that are for movies, but it works for novels. And now there's one called Save the Cat for novels, but it's not much different. So for something more complicated than what I'm telling you, look up Save the Cat, it's wonderful. You're absolutely right. You never watch a movie again the same. Has that been your experience? Yeah. And it's not that it ruins it, it just kind of deepens it. Yeah, like you said, it's like subconscious, and then, oh, I understand what they're doing there. Anyway, the falling action, he calls, in the Save the Cat, he calls it fun and games. Because now the conflict's really revved up, but it's winding down because the character has changed. The climax he's reached where he's done all these bad things and good things, and he's had problems and he's solved them, and then the worst problem has been solved, and so now he just has to work out the details in the final downward spiral. And I say spiral because add this to your line, and maybe you can figure out what that spiral means. Anybody figure out what that is? Why do I have that wavy line there? What do you think?
It doesn't necessarily have to be like super linear.
Yes, it doesn't. It doesn't. Now, for younger kids, they'll get confused, but it doesn't have to be super linear. And the other thing is, you're always moving forward. For me, the downward one is the negative state. The main character tried something and they failed. The duck tried to climb the tree and he failed. But then he could swim and the cat can't. So have something positive. The problem gets solved. The main character learns something that he can then use later on. Oh, I can swim and the cat can't. There's something good about me. I don't have to change necessarily and be a cat. And then another problem. And keep going until you reach your climax. The length of problems depends on your length of your book, your age of your reader. Here's an example. So one book I have is called Underground Scouts. It's a YA book, so that category, some of you said, a lot more said you're ready for that age. So if you didn't know, it's 55 to 80,000 words. The main character is usually 14 to 18, or it could even be adult. It depends on the book. It's obviously not middle grade. Middle grade readers are 8 to 12 or 13. So my point is, know the age group you're writing for, and fit this structure into it. Now, what I'm going to show you next is how you get that out. If whatever you're writing, if you find something on the back here or something on your own, you want to write to either an agent or some publishers, especially these, will take your manuscript, what they call unsolicited. Not many do today, like the big houses, you have to have an agent. But for some of these, you don't. So whether you're writing to an agent or a publisher, you have to write what's called a query letter. Have any of you written a query letter? Ever? Okay, good, I know where you're at then. You need to learn what a query letter is if you're going to write, and if you want to submit it, even sometimes to a contest. I just entered a contest and I had to write basically a query letter and a synopsis just for a contest. So look online, learn about what a query letter is, but I'm going to show you some basics of it. So here's a letter I wrote to an agent that would hopefully find me a publishing house for this book. So first thing, I was excited to learn you co-founded the Prague Post. As an agent, see if I can move up without making feedback. As an agent with previous interest in Central Europe, as well as in historical fiction, I believe my completed 85,000 word YA historical novel, Underground Scout, will be of interest to you. See how I packed a lot of thoughts into that one sentence. I researched who she was. I knew why she might be interested. I told her what it was. It's historical fiction and the name. So then you tell them about your main characters. Tadzio and Magdalena weren't prepared for the Polish Scout Masters Challenge until their parents disappeared. Just like a, yeah. Problem, right? There's my problem. Their fictionalized story highlights the lesser-known resistant efforts of teens during World War II, similar to Hesse's Girl in the Blue Coat and Macrina's Traitor. But, unlike these novels, the fictional characters in Underground Scouts interact with historical Boy Scouts and Girl Guides. So you say what's already there. That's called market research. Find out what's already, how many people have already written an alphabet book? Maybe that's not the best thing to write, because there's a lot of them out there. So research the market and say how yours is different, that it stands out. This is worth you putting money or effort into publishing my book. And then a little bit about the story. Tadzio and Magdalena's camaraderie with historical teen scouts, their common cause and coming-of-age struggles take center stage against the backdrop of historical events. Since book clubs such as Scholastic look to publish World War II YA historical fiction books nearly every September, I believe Underground Scouts will stand up well next to other upmarket, so I know the terms, upmarket historical fiction offerings, and then it goes on to other ones. So those are the basic ideas you want to include if you're writing to an agent, or even maybe for a contest if they ask for that. So I did number 3 there. Editors want to know about what they are looking for. They want to know that you know what they're looking for. That's what I'm trying to say. Editors want to know that you know what they're looking for. You've done your homework. You're not just doing I used to do this when I first started the machine gun approach. I have a bunch of, you are an editor for middle grade books, so, send it out, queries to all these. No, don't do that. They'll just put it in the trash. Catch them so they know that you know what they're looking for. And if possible, stalk them. Find out a little bit about them as a person. I knew she had done this writing for this Prague magazine, and that she had an interest in Central Europe. So that, again, shows that you've done your homework. And sometimes you become friends through that because you both have a similar interest. Number four, they want to know, again, this isn't on my sheet, so you may have to just jot it down. They want to know that you can follow directions. Seems like, duh, but an example, don't send a sample page if they don't ask for it. Oh, I'll just get their interest and they'll see what a great writer I am, and I'll send this sample, I'll send this sample page, and they're gonna, again, they'll just throw it in the trash. You're wasting their time. follow their posted guidelines. If you're sending to an agent or a publishing house, they will post guidelines. This is how we want you to send this in. And spell their names correctly. I've been to many workshops with an editor or agent, and they're like, if you can't even spell my name correctly, what a mess your manuscript might be. And that's just very impersonal. Have you ever had your name misspelled? It's kind of like, I was at the doctor the other day, and my first name is Marie. And so many people say Mary, or something like that. It's not Mary, it's Marie. And they spelled it M-A-R-I. And I was like, I didn't say anything, but I felt like kind of indignant, like, why would you do that? So don't do it for somebody you're trying to impress. Number 5, I mentioned learn how to write quality query letters and a short synopsis. Those are workshops in themselves, and there's plenty of information online. That would be an explanation of your story, and it's usually only, can you guess how many pages a summary of your story is? What do you think? How many pages would a summary of your story be? If it's a long story, let's say. Ballpark. Don't be afraid of being wrong, because I did it. One, yeah. I did like 2 or 3 pages for Underground Scouts before I realized and looked up, it's supposed to only be 1 page. How can I get it into 1 page? It's such an amazing book. But if you're a good writer, you can do that, yeah. So learn what you need to put in a synopsis and a query letter. They're different, they're not the same. Number 6, this is where hopefully this workshop will help you. Before trying to write a book, how many of you already have a work in progress for a book? Yeah, a couple. Okay. Otherwise, you're just interested. Let me check our time, make sure we're doing good. Yep. Okay. Before you actually finish that book, keep working on it, but before you finish it, I encourage you to write a short story. In some ways, it's harder than writing a book, but you learn so much that will then cross over to making a better book. Because there's more of a market for short stories right now than there are for books. So keep working on a book, but do a short story and then send it to publishers and or contests, because again, there you have an audience. Your book is not going to get an audience for quite a while. You need to go through many revisions, critique group, and so on. So try to do a short story first. And number 7, speaking of that, find a group to share your stories. Some people tell me, I have my best friend read my stories, or a parent reads the stories. You need to make your circle bigger. Reach out, look online. There's plenty of online groups for teens and adults. I belong to a group called SCBWI. I hate that name. Society of Children Book Writers and Illustrators. It's an international group, and you can go on webinars on any subject you're interested in from anywhere in the world. I could get up one time, I think it was 2 o'clock in the morning, to be on a webinar from, I forget, Ireland or something. So it can be anywhere that you're learning from other people. So get a group of people. There are these online groups. Yes?
Can you repeat that?
Yes, I'll give you the letters. SCBWI. And there's a fee to belong to the group, and then you find a local group. So I'm the advisor for all of North Texas region right now, and so we plan events for our local people. But then there's also the international group that has resources. Oh, so many resources. It's so good. Are you 18 or older? Okay, so they only have 18 or older, I don't know, for whatever reason. So it's not good for those of you younger than that. But there are others, like the Inklings is a good group, which is on the back here. Okay, so that's kind of like a no-brainer. You gotta have other people. I've had one since I've been writing. We moved from San Jose to Modesto, which is like an hour-and-a-half drive in California. But my husband still worked in San Jose, and I had a critique group before the internet, before email, believe it or not. And so I read a chapter. I had a publisher that wanted to buy this story, and this was my great critique group. I depended on everything. I had it like halfway written, and we moved. So I would write a chapter. Mark would drop it off at the leader's home before he went to work, and then after they had their critique group that following Monday, and they were done, he'd pick it up and then bring it back, so they didn't have to do mail. What would you call that? It wasn't email, it was drive mail. But I depended on that. That's until I found one in my area.
Uber mail.
What?
Is that Uber mail?
Uber mail, yes, yes. And then you write about what you know, you've researched it. Okay, this is the point where I'll have questions. This is another series I have, California Trail Discovered. It's really the Oregon Trail, but they've found another trail to get to California, and then Yosemite Trail. And what I do in my historical fiction, I have a fictional character. Can you see the boy in the middle? These books are like 4 years apart, not in writing, but an age group for him. So he's on the trail with this real person, Jim Savage. He really wasn't, because my character's fictional. And I pretend that Jim is his guardian. So that's how I put a main character in there who's fiction, so I can do my story structure. I can make the problems happen. But everything the real character sees, my character sees, because he's right alongside him. So that's how I do my historical fiction. So the gal on the left is a real person. She was in the Dahmer party. And then over on the right, that's her, like 4 years later. And they become friends on the trail. So again, you see things that she saw. And then in the gold country, you see problems. They go to San Jose to refuel their supplies they need to sell to the traders. There's more conflict here. So this is middle grade, but by the time you get to book 2, it's YA. So I had to ask questions that I had, well, I didn't have to. I wrote the book because I had questions. I lived in California almost all my life. And have any of you been to Yosemite? Oh, you have to go there, 3 of you. Yeah, so it's so beautiful, but I never knew its history, and it's hard to find out. So I had to do a lot of research, and I found out the people in the gold country, they don't like that guy, Jim Savage, and they had grown up with stories that weren't really true about him once I did the research. And I even found a stone there that I went to the Historical Society and said, that's incorrect on that stone. That's not what really happened. And I showed them my evidence, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll have to change that. And I went back a couple of years later, and they never changed. So I feel like I'm an Indiana Jones, female Indiana Jones. I collect artifacts if you come to our booth. I forget what number it is, 512. I have a bronze dagger that's from 3,000 years old because I have a trilogy. It's going to be 4 books eventually about ancient Mesopotamia. So I have a bronze dagger from that time period that you can hold. I have an alabaster jar, which is book 2. So I ask questions, and that's how I write my books. So that's a fun way to do it, at least for historical fiction. So you might think about that as you're writing. Okay, whoops. That's the last one. So do we have questions from you? Yes?
How do you do your research for historical fiction?
Oh, that's a good question. So I come up with those questions. I take them to a librarian that I trust, ask them for help, give me resources. But I do a lot of it online, and then sadly for historical fiction, it's easy to go on rabbit trails if you've ever done it. So you have to, like, whoa, that's not answering my question. So a lot of it I do personally online just because physically it's hard for me to get around a lot. And there's so much there. And then check it out, make sure it's factual and all that. But that's a lot of how I do it. And then interview people. I've interviewed a lot of people and said, okay, is this true? Is this true? You were there, or you know somebody. One person was actually in the Underground Scouts battalion. That was amazing. Yes?
So how do you incorporate your faith into your writing? Like, are your characters Christians, or do you just have Christian themes? And like, how does that overlap? Because like, I want to make sure that my writing is like about what I believe.
Yes.
But it's hard to like
Okay.
write Christian characters often.
It
and,
is,
like,
without coming off
Yes,
kind of
exactly.
self-righteous in a way.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, so what I do is I give them a flaw. Daniel, in this one, the main character, he doesn't solve his flaw. He wants a family, that's what he needs, but he thinks his goal is revenge, to find the people that killed his parents. So that's his flaw. He's just consumed by revenge. So figure out what their flaw is, and then figure out what their real need is. His real need is he needs a new family because his parents have been killed, but he doesn't want to give up the revenge. So I put him in situations where it's actually possible for him to take revenge, and then he thinks back to his faith. And then Jim is not a man of faith, he wasn't, but I have Daniel, he has problems, so Jim kind of ends up sort of counseling him, because Jim has questions, so reaching out to other people who have problems, and then being confronted with the solution that that character needs to incorporate, and then do they take it or do they not? So that's a way to get it in. Does that help? A
So
little bit?
your character is a Christian, or he has.
He has a Christian back, yes,
Okay.
because that's the way he was raised. Supposedly his parents read the Bible to him and his little sister every night. But I'll give you a spoiler alert, his sister dies in book 1 on the trail. And so he's dealing with his grief. And so that's a real problem. Give them real world problems. And then have them work through those problems. And if you have a faith background, then show how that faith is part of it.
Overcome.
Yeah, you could, in this book, Jim has a phrase where he said, you can't, help me Mark to say it right, you can't, Jim is a real practical man, like from every, that's your question as well, on historical, I go to museums a lot, and I was able to go to a museum in this area, and they had all these newspaper articles like that, so I did a lot of that, first-hand research. You can't something, Mark, anyway, Jim has this saying about you can't protect what you can't possess what you can't protect. Because Jim is, he cares for the Native Americans, but the gold rush people are coming in. So Jim's not even sure, how do I deal with this problem? Because he's kind to the Indians and he has them dig for him, but he gives them supplies in return and he doesn't try to cheat them. But he says you can't possess what you can't protect. So the Native Americans weren't able, didn't have the power to protect their property. And so when I deal with that with students, I say, that's amoral. That's what's called that's my major, social science. It's a social science principle. It's not good, it is bad, but it's just the way things are, like gravity. You can't, but Ukraine, Russia, you can't possess what you can't protect. So countries are trying to help Ukraine protect itself, but it's just been an annual problem. So when he asked Daniel that question about possessing and protecting, Daniel says, I remember a verse I had to memorize. My parents made me memorize where it says, you can give the whole world, gain the whole world but lose your soul. And so they grapple with that together. So you have to give them real world problems and then something from their background or present case. Somebody is a mentor to them and tells them that they have to wrestle and solve it. Well, that's a really good question. Other ones? About publishing or anything? Yes.
What is your writing schedule look like, daily or weekly?
I have to be honest because my husband's here. It's pretty erratic. We have 3 now grandkids that we take care of, and so we never know when they're going to be there. So I do have certain events in the evening. I know but right now it's it's not very good. A lot of people have a set time. They get up in the morning. I'm going to write that have friends that have little kids. I'm going to start writing at 5 o'clock before the kids get up in the morning. I can never do that. And write for 2 hours. And then it's nice to have a schedule if it's possible.
And when you do write, how do you get ideas, focus? What's your method?
Yes. So my ideas first come, like I said, by asking questions. I see something in the world that I want to try to answer, like the one about the amoral, can't possess what you can't protect. And so questions and I think of a character, and then I think just what he wants, what he needs. So I do all that business up front. And then I start researching how I would do it. I usually do kind of outline the story arc. You may have heard this, there's pantsers and then there's planners. Some people write by the seat of the pants, and some people are planners. And then there's pantsters, which do both. And I'm kind of that. I plan, but I also go by the seat of my pants sometimes because of my schedule. But I get ideas because the research for me will spark an idea. So for you, if you're writing middle grade or young adult, I would actually read some psychology articles on identity. A middle grade student is looking for their identity, and so is the young adult. But a middle grade student is doing it apart from their family. They're starting to break away from their identity as part of this family, and they're trying to deal with, okay, who am I? They don't know yet because they're not old enough. They don't have enough experiences. They are part of the family. At middle grade, they're starting to break away. By young adult, they're broken away from the family, they have an idea that they're still developing who they are, and then they're trying to form their identity. So read psychology articles. That's part of my research, even if it's not historical fiction. So does that help? Okay, other ones? Oh, good. We check. I think we're doing okay. Yes.
Okay, so how do you get into a writing mode? Like, how do you get there and focus and not go all over?
Yes. That is a good question, because sometimes I'll sit down and I just don't feel like writing. I have this block of time. My husband is golfing. He's not going to bother me. Or ask me where something is. Yeah. And I'm like, no, wait, I don't feel like writing. But do it anyway. When you know you have the time, or you've carved out the time, write a character sketch. Do something to get the gears moving. One thing some people do is they write an interview. They sit down as if your character's right there. And they ask, I've never done this, it seems weird, but they've told me it works. It's like, so Daniel, what do you do when you're depressed? And then write down the answers that come to you. It does really work. So sometimes when you have writer's block, that helps. Ask your character questions. Or his friends. So your brother does this. When he does that, how does that make you feel? And you have to, I even look in the mirror, you have to feel the emotions of the character. If you don't feel it, your reader won't feel it, and they won't care about your book. So when I actually get into it like an actor and feel that, I think, or if I don't feel it, I think of an incident similar to that. When did I feel like I was all alone? And I would hide in the bathroom because I didn't know nobody at recess, and I'd hide in the restroom until the bell rang. That's feeling alone. Why did I do that? And so if my character is dealing with feeling alone, I will find something to tap into and bring up that memory, re-feel it, and then pour that into my character. What was the other thing I was going to say? I lost it. Okay, so hopefully that answers a little bit. Okay. Other things? Yes?
We have a list for like teen authors. How do we find publishers of an adult?
The list for teen, which number is that? So specifically. Best-selling? Which one do you think?
I thought like this was like if you're writing kids books or if you're a teen author. Like if you were writing an adult book as an adult, how do you find a publisher?
Okay, so these are more for teens. You're asking if you're an adult, how do you find an adult publisher? Okay, good question. You can email me and I can answer you more specifically. I'm thinking of a thing called Query Tracker, or look up Query Tracker, and it will show you editors that are looking for specific things, or agents. I'm looking for a book about blah, 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 and if that fits, then you can query them. So that's a really good one. I think that might get you started. Other ones? Let's see, I think I have my email on here. Oh, that's a faux pas, I guess. My email is Sontag, so it's just my name. Marie, E is for Eileen, Sontag, S-O-N-T-A-G, @gmail. So feel free to email me. Also, even though it's a hot link and it's online, but you can look at this last one. You can download this page, and then all of these will be hot links. So you don't have to try and type them out. I did this session one time where there was a boy about 9, and he said, oh, you can do that without having to download it. You can do it, I forget what he said. You can look at it and do something on your phone and it'll be a hot link. If you know that, see me after. I don't know how to do that. Okay, yes?
You said that there was somebody here in your group of writers who's a fantasy author.
Yes.
What was their name?
That is Katie. It's really Catherine on her book. Catherine Briggs, B-R-I-G-G-S. She has 2 of them out now, and she's an award-winning author. I think everybody that's in her group except Valerie, who's new, has won some kind of award. So, that it's good stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else? Yes?
How do you feel that AI has negatively or positively affected the writing community?
Ooh, hot question. Negative in that some people cheat and they think that's creative and it's not. Clubhouse magazine, it's published by Focus on the Family. I had a workshop with them this summer, and he says, we have a way of knowing, and they send it to this one person who, whenever they get a submission, If they can detect that any of it's AI, they won't even look at it. So it's negative in that people think they can shortcut, and that publishers have to do extra work because they don't want it. Positive in that it can help generate ideas. I have a friend that's doing a devotional book on fear, and she needs like little vignettes, little stories at the beginning, and she's actually typed it into AI to give her ideas on making a fictional story about somebody with fear. And she doesn't use that wording, but it gives her ideas. And I have used it for the art, because I'm not an illustrator, but I have images in my head that I want in the book, and so I've used AI to give me the image I want, and then I'm not going to use that, but I'm going to give it to the illustrator to show them, this is what I'm thinking. If I drew it, they would have no clue what I'm thinking. I can't even draw a circle. Kids would laugh at me as when I was a teacher. Okay, now in this circle, I'm like, oh, that's not even a circle. So AI can definitely help that way. Does that help? A little bit? Okay. Yes?
Have you made lucrative money doing your writing?
Not yet. Good question. It's a hard, long trail. There was somebody that just finally, somebody was in a group a long time ago, like 8 years ago. She was an amazing, amazing writer, a new writer. She finally has hit it big, so to speak, and she said, it only took me 12 years to become a overnight sensation. So I don't know if that helps, but it's a fun road.
So don't quit your day job.
Right, right. Don't quit your day job, right. Think of it as a journey where you're building friendships and you're learning and you're growing as a person. I've grown so much because you have to constantly step out of your comfort zone. And if you don't, you're not going to change, and that's what you want your characters to do too. So yeah, unless you Valerie, that's in our group, she's new. She has these amazing ideas. She got a publisher like that, which is unusual, and she's going places. She's so creative, but it doesn't always happen like that. Yes?
You said something about like they're not going to take illustrations from the author.
Usually, yeah, unless it's just stunning, outstanding. And then make sure they say that in their submission guidelines, because they're pretty upfront about it, if they will or if they won't. I know if you're good, it's tempting to want to do that. But again, it can be an illustration that their illustrator might use to spin off. Yes? Do you have it? No? Okay. Anything else? Yes?
What happens if you don't like the illustrator that does like a cover or whatever, and you're like, that's not how the character looks?
Oh, that's tough, yeah, because they feel like, they have the last word. And so you can work with them. My first book was not actually historical fiction, it was a nonfiction about recovering from childhood abuse. And I did not like the title they picked. I thought the title I had was pretty good. And so we kind of went back and forth, and finally I agreed with them that I was going to go, well, and now I'm happy I did, because I didn't know as much as I thought I did. So that's a tough one if you disagree. You can always, I think, you always have a right to refuse. Mostly read your contract carefully if you get a deal, and see if you can do that, if that's a concern for you. Can I decide I don't want to work with you if we can't agree on a cover or the illustrations? Yeah, that's a possibility. Fortunately for me, I have that problem too, because there's so many books out there that I think have a bad cover, and they say you can't judge a cover by a book by its cover, but you do.
Yeah, I know.
And there's so many out there that, especially in faith-based publishers, I'm just going to say that right up front, they don't have really great illustrators. So I found a publisher who, if I'm going to pay for the illustration and he likes it, he's like, great, go for it. And so I pay for mine because if you look at my covers, I love them. To me, they just like, this is for kids, or this is about adventure. My illustrator gets me. And then when I did the Scout one, it's totally different style. It was like a World War II faces illustrated. So anyway, yeah, either find somebody that's really good that your publisher will let you use, or if you can do it, you can, talk to them about that. Or if it's an agent especially, they might be more flexible. They'll say, yeah, that'll work, or no, I know the industry. That's the beauty of an agent. They've been around the block, and they know who will buy what, and they can give you advice. So, anything else? How are you doing? probably should end. We are at 5:12 for a booth, so if you have more questions, we'll be here till the Saturday night, and you're feeling free to come by and ask questions. Thank you so much for coming. Oh, yes. I almost forgot. If you're near, who's ever nearest an envelope that's under a chair, a folder, it's yours. So whoever gets there first gets it. It has 2 or 3 short stories of mine where I had written a book, but then I went back and wrote a short story. So it gives you an idea of how you can do short stories. So you're welcome to those. Feel free. There's 3 of them in the room. I see a red one there. Whoever wants it, just grab it. You're welcome to it.